So there was one ball in the middle, like on the line, and like it was definitely hers. And then no one said a word. And then the last second, I just tried to like hit the ball and I ended up hitting the ball. It was cold. I hit her right in the ear and everyone saw it. And there was like a big like, oh, on the side.
Audience gasp.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, the audience.
like he's in the doghouse, like that kind of,
You're like,
oh.
oh.
And then like looking back on it, funny, but Sydney was not too happy. And
I was pissed.
I was like, we gotta talk.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pickle Me This. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and like so you'll be notified when new episodes drop every Saturday morning. You definitely don't want to miss them. Also, your support helps other pickleball enthusiasts find us too. Everyone has a story. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pickle Me This, where we celebrate the fun, friendships, and stories that make pickleball more than just a sport. Today, I'm joined by a special couple whose love story blossomed both on and off the courts. Sean and Sydney not only found each other through pickleball, but have created an entire community of friends their age. From their meet cute moment to building meaningful connections across generations, their story represents everything we love about this sport. So welcome, Sean and Sydney.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I think a good place to get started is, how did each of you first discover pickleball? What drew you to the sport?
Friend who told me one day, like, hey, I've been really into pickleball. And I was like, pickleball? Like, never heard of that. Heard of ping pong and tennis, but never pickleball. And she was like, come out and play with me. So I went out and played with her, and it was really confusing at first. She had to explain all of the game rules multiple times over and over. I was like, wait, what's the score again? You know, like, I didn't understand anything about it. I was like, this seems a lot better than catching, you know, a friend with a cup of coffee, or, you know, going out and spending money on doing something. Instead, you get to like socialize when you're breaking in between games, and then you can also be physical and get some activity in. So, yeah.
You know what's so funny? It took me, oh, sorry, Sean. It took me so long to do the score too, Sydney. And I'm an engineer. I'm like, what is these three numbers? I don't understand.
I know. I was like, I can't remember where it's supposed to stand. Like, how does that?
What is that? Yeah, same. Sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
You're good. Or how like the score always starts with 0-0-2, and then the rest of the game is 0-0-1. That's another.
Yes.
I started. It was my buddies just asked me one day to go play pickleball, and like my first question was like, "Isn't that for old people?" And then
Fair.
give it a go. There's two friends my age from college. I actually lived with them at the time, and then one of their girlfriends. And then same thing. I was like, I wasn't really a fan at first. It was like a weird, you know, compared to like tennis. I played that a couple of times. It was cool just to like try a new sport, but like I definitely wasn't like feeling it my first time playing with them.
How long did it take you to get hooked?
Definitely a couple months. Like once I like understood like the scoring, where to stand, like there's just a lot more like strategy, and then like I think that's what brought me to the sport, because like I have an engineering background too, so I've always like thought more than like using my body, and I feel like this is like the perfect sport for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Sean, you're the more experienced player. Talk about how you didn't like it at first, right? But then took you a couple months. What keeps bringing you back?
Yeah, you got to play a sport where it's a lot of fun. That I've also learned that like it's all age ranges. I also just like the community aspect on top of that, because like some other sports like tennis, if you show up, it's a lot of fun. You play for 2 hours and you leave. Or pickleball, it's more like a club. I feel like a social club. So I see it also as like a community, and like we both benefited a lot from that and making friends.
So Sydney, what was your first impression of pickleball?
Honestly, I kind of remember feeling dumb because I didn't understand how to play. It took me, I think, about 5 to 6 games to fully understand like the motions of moving without having to ask somebody while we were playing, like, where do I go? Like, what's the score? Wait, I can't like hit it out of the air, you know? But then I think after I played a couple different times with that same friend, I started really being interested in like wanting to have other friends come with me, because between games, when we're waiting for a court to come out, we can catch up instead. And I think that's honestly more what kept me going back. And then I got really good, and I was like, oh, like this is actually different, you know, from a perspective of just hanging out with friends too. So
yeah. I like that. Between the two of you, who's the better player?
Depends who you ask.
One time I had told him, I said, I think I'm better than you.
And what?
And he didn't like that.
That's insane.
He thinks he's better than me, but
So
we have had people tell us privately that they think I'm better, that they think he's better. So
it's a non-starter debate.
I will say I did beat Sean in singles first.
Well, she also only remembers when she wins. That's the interesting.
True.
Like, she's like, yeah, I won the last 3. And, like, I know she didn't. But I'm like, yeah, you did. Good job. Like,
yeah, you just have to go with it, Sean. You know. All right, so let's talk about how you guys met. So everyone probably wants to know, how exactly did the two of you meet on the courts?
Me and my 2 friends who were also single at the time, we were on the court and we needed a 4th. And Mom was just standing around and I was like, hey, you want to play with us? Like, we need a 4th player. And he was like, sure. And we ended up playing, and Sean and I were on opposite sides, but we were definitely the best of 4 that were there. I could tell we both had that like competitive spirit. So we'd have a good shot and be like, good shot. And then like he'd hit it over and I would be like, that was nice serve. You know, like we'd kind of start doing things like that. And then we came off the courts and we just started kind of naturally talking. I mean, I thought he was good looking. He was super fit, had some eyes there, but I just was like, oh, we started talking. And then he kind of overheard me and my friends talking about how we were going to do something over the weekend. And so he asked for my number. And I told him that he would be in my phone pickleball acquaintance because I didn't know him well enough to know if I wanted to be his friend or not yet. So he got my number and he texted me all the time, and things just kind of progressed from there.
yeah, I mean, my lens is a little bit different. So I actually really started to enjoy pickleball because when I first started playing, like when I didn't really know anyone, I'd always like go with a buddy, and then I'd be upset like if a friend can't go because like the older you get, more people are busy. So I actually feel like the most fun I had for a while before like we built pickleball community together was like just showing up alone, meeting people, like. And yeah, I remember it was one night where it was 3 girls on the court, and like, I mean, for any single man, like paradise. I mean, 3 pretty girls. Like, I just had to pick the right one, and like they needed a 4th. I jumped in, I pulled my paddle out of the rack. I played with them, and yeah, there was 2 of them were okay. Sydney was really good. That definitely helped her cause and who I wanted to talk to. I like athletes. And then, yeah, after I asked her what she was doing, she brought up her plans. It's a pretty fun bar. We do a lot with our friends over here. And she told me, she's like, we're going. And I kind of like invited myself. I was like, I love that place. Like, I'll go too. We should all go as friends. And then I asked for her number. And then, yeah, now we're here.
Did you want to go because it was a fun place, or did you want to go because Sydney was going to be there?
Just trying to play cool. I would say a little bit of both, 50-50.
Okay.
I'd
So
go motion with anyone, but then also, I guess, Sydney's pretty and I want to get to know her.
So would you say it was an immediate connection at first?
For me, I would say I actually was really not looking or anything like that at the time. I think I'd actually just ended things with somebody else and I wasn't really interested in dating anybody at the moment. And he was texting. I remember telling my friends like, oh, like this guy won't even ask me out. Like we've been texting for like a week and a half. And I remember like I got really sick or something like the week after and he was like, oh, I'll bring you some soup. And I'm like, this weirdo I don't know that I met at Pickleball like offered.
Wow, Sean.
Chivalry, I know.
That's pretty nice.
Like, that's so nice. Like, he offered to bring you soup and you're sick. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so we ended up, like, playing pickleball again together. It's also different when you don't know anything about somebody. Like, dating is so weird these days because you have people who go on Hinge and they meet people, but, like, they know a little bit about them before they go out with them because you spend time communicating. Versus like for Sean, people are always so surprised we met so organically. But it does take time with that to like get to know somebody because you're basically meeting a stranger, which is funny saying that now because I'm sure like my parents and other people would be like, that's you do it. We spent a good couple of months like talking to each other before we decided to officially be together.
Yeah. My parents have a great story. My mom and her friend were on a street corner. That sounds bad. But it's not bad. They were just, like,
I love it. I love it.
They were looking to cross the street, and a car pulls up. It was my dad and friend, and they said, "Hey, hey, guy. Like they pretty much had them pull over. That sound like crazy scary, like in this day and age. Like, would
Like a
anybody ever
movie.
do that?
The
But hey,
movie, literally.
I'd be here if that didn't happen. Hey,
That's true. It
Yeah.
happens all the time.
so you just have to go for it.
That's so cool.
What was your first date? What was your first official date?
Yeah, we went and played pickleball, which we talked about after. We were like, why did we like rush and do that? Like we had to play pickleball before we went to dinner.
That's our state.
Yeah, it was our staple. So we played pickleball before for a little bit, and then we ended up going to this restaurant in the area called Los Ramblas. It's a tapas place. And it was Sean's idea, and it was really cool. It didn't really feel like a first date because we had spent a couple times like hanging out before that, and we actually went there for a 1-year anniversary dinner too.
Did you go into that dinner knowing it was your first date, or was it your first date?
Yeah, I think so. I think we like had a plan where let's do something pickleball oriented. And I don't think I was that nervous, but I think it just takes a little bit of like the edge off, like doing something like friendly, open, and then like sitting in a more formal dinner.
So for that first date, who asked who to go? And did you say like, let's go on a date? Or did you say, let's go to dinner?
I asked Sean to ask me out. I was like,
Tell
Are
us
you
more about that.
ever gonna ask me out? And he was like, you didn't give me a chance. And it was like going on a couple weeks where we were just texting every day, back and forth. And I was like, are you just friendly? Do you like?
I was feeling it out. I'm patient.
I love that you called him out.
It was really, honestly, I feel like we didn't really have anything that was really OMG or anything. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. I remember Sean hanging out with the guys for the longest time. The guy group. Yeah. Can you think of a recent game against somebody where it got a little tense between the two of you?
Okay, so like I have a good just ongoing example of this. Like Sydney's really good at like rising to the occasion. Like if people are better than us, like even if we don't win, it's like 11-7, 11-8. Like she's really like, again, very competitive. But then it's like when we play like people we're a lot better than. I mean, she's like, yeah, it should be nice. And like we lose. It's not like we win 11-7. Like I'm pro being nice. Like if somebody's new to pickleball, I don't want to beat up on them. So that drives me bonkers when like we play people that we're clearly better than. And sometimes we even lose like 11-3 because we're not trying at all.
Mm-hmm.
One of us is trying. The other one's giggling.
I have a bad habit of giggling.
So do I. I've done that before too. You'll start playing with somebody more on the beginner side and you get in and maybe I'm like fluffing it in the beginning and then all of a sudden they're doing well.
Yeah.
And they're getting ahead in the score. And then they start trying to get better and then I start flubbing it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. That is 100% what happens. It's
and they're
bad.
like, what's going on? How come they won? This doesn't make any sense. But hey,
How come they
good
did
for their
that?
ego.
I know, literally.
Helps them, hurts us.
Yeah.
I love it.
Goodness. Building the pickleball community. Tell us about this friend group you've developed there.
Insane.
It's insane, right? It's huge.
So many people. Like I could rattle off, I feel like 10 people I know. And then there's like people we play with together. There's people like I just go and play with like my guy friends. Like
I feel like when I first started dating Sean, because we were both pickleballing and we were meeting people and people were finding out I was dating Sean, it was kind of like, let's all do something together outside of pickleball. I can't think of one right now that does not play pickleball or like has not at least played it before.
So you met them at pickleball, and then you also had friends that you got to start playing pickleball too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like naturally I'm a connector, so I like connect people together.
Yeah.
And I want to see people have fun.
Yeah.
In the beginning too, when we first started playing, I would organize like a social group and game nights and all that good stuff to get people more interconnected outside the courts too. It depends on how much time you have on the sidelines, how long we're waiting, so how long you can
literally
chat.
Could be hours, could be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some days and nights that it's very, very crowded there.
I can't stand it.
Yeah. 30-minute wait's too long. But 10 minutes, that's fine. I know I saw you in the courts the other night and you were like, I'm exhausted. There's so many things we try to do. I'm rushing between here and there and everywhere. So what does a normal weekend look like for each of you? Like, what do you do outside of the pickleball courts as well as pickleball?
So yeah, basically anything like fitness, like we love to do. So we joined this run club. It's every Tuesday. It's pretty early. It's at like 6 a.m. But I would say like similar to like a pickleball thing. I play tennis a lot with my friends Pat and Aaron, who I met at Pickleball. Yeah, I think those are like the big things we do. What else?
I'm training for a marathon right now, so my time is very differently spent physically at the moment. I'm into long mileage now on the weekends, so running has become our like main activity now, and Sean will run with me, which has been nice.
And Sydney's pretty humble, but she's not just running a marathon to run a marathon. She's running it for like a very special cause.
Yeah, I'm running a marathon in May for a family friend of mine who he's been battling cancer for over 20 plus years, and he has soft tissue sarcoma. So he actually had his right arm amputated in 2010, and he had his left leg amputated in September of last year. So sarcoma is a pretty, from what I've read, rare form of cancer. And so I don't know. I just like this last year was so, for lack of a better word, depressing. I feel like with the election, with the hurricanes, the natural disasters that went on, I just decided how cool would it be to run 26 miles for my 26th year of life, because I'll be 26 in May. It might be the only time I ever have in my life to do it, so why not do it for something bigger than just running a marathon? So I ended up telling them I was gonna do it for them, but I think they were like, that's so, kind that you would do that. And I'm fundraising for it. He picked a nonprofit organization called the Sarcoma Alliance, and they basically help people with sarcoma find resources. Since it's so rare, I think it's really hard for people to find proper treatment. And then the other half of the money will go directly to the family to support the finances and things that they need to through his treatment and transition. And I think because I'm doing it for somebody else, it's kind of one of those things where you just take it a little bit more seriously.
And yeah, Sydney has a GoFundMe. If anyone wants to donate, she's been just, so much support. And all roads lead back to pickleball. There was actually someone the other day who, the guy knows me. He always asks where Sydney is, and I told him that she's running a marathon. He actually, again, doesn't really know Sydney, more like friendly with her, and like he just donated $100 that night.
Yeah.
That was like super nice. Like it's such a good cause,
and it's nice having great people that do great things together, be a part of something bigger than just a sport.
Yeah,
in general.
yeah, I love it. I think a lot of people want to give back and help others in need, for sure.
Yeah,
when we promote this episode, we'll share the GoFundMe link.
Yeah, no pressure on that either.
No,
but
for sure.
Like, opportunity to plug that in.
Absolutely. I think people, especially when people hear personal stories, it makes you want to donate more, right? So you mentioned having a relationship with Meredith. Meredith's my age. We've had many a conversation with the multi-generational group on the courts, especially back in the day. I feel like Issa, Sean, Meredith, me, Tyler, maybe Damien, like lots of conversations. What are your favorite stories or about the intergenerational play?
I think it's really cool how like it's not like a sport where you have to be like physically dominant. Like anyone can beat anyone if they have like enough like brain power and they understand where to hit it. Yeah, like when everyone gets to a certain level, like there's a physical aspect and hitting it harder than people. But I think it's just cool that somebody could be 70 and beat up on someone that's like 18, because like my thing with pickleball that I really like, it's more mental. You have to think. It's a lot more strategy. Like hitting as hard as you can doesn't work against people that are as good as you. They just put their paddle up and knock it down.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not like ready to roll, like they will beat you. So I've enjoyed that. It's like 50-50 in my opinion, in terms of like a physical versus like mental strategy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anything to add, Sydney?
I think like the reason I first actually connected with Meredith was not pickleball related. She actually is in the same space I'm in for work. And this is just my experience, but I share this with Sean all the time. It's really hard to find people that understand my stress at work. But like being in the space Meredith and I are in, we're dealing with patients, people who are really sick all the time, really professional doctors who are world renowned, and people that have a lot of expectation from us to do things. And we work in person every day. And that's something that we relate to outside of pickleball. Like whenever I've had a bad work day and I show up at the pickleball court, it's like she's the person I'm looking for, because I'm like, I have to tell you about this one thing that happened to me today, but I think like having a community of people that have various generational backgrounds is a really positive thing. I think there's something to be said too. I feel like our generation, maybe I'm an old soul, but sometimes I feel like we're warped. I feel like we have perceptions of things that are not normal because of COVID and phones and technology. And it's nice and refreshing to have conversations with people that have experienced the same things we have, but from maybe a more normal perspective, in my opinion. And I think pickleball is one of those, it's strategy, it's game, it's healthy competition. And I think there's something to be said about perspectives that come from everywhere. And so it's nice having a community that has that, I think, for me.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said about learning from people of all generations. People have lived different lives. I still feel like I'm learning on the courts and off the courts. Like I can learn a lot of cool skills on the courts, but even off the courts, just different perspectives on people's lives and what's going on and their different histories and stuff. There's a lot there.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
I agree.
Yeah. It's funny. I asked a similar question. Damien went right to the pickleball side of things too. And then Kennedy was like, no, the connections. She's like, who wants to talk to their parents about stuff? So I like having somebody else like that age to go ask their advice and their wisdom.
Absolutely.
What's the dynamic like when you two play together? Friendly competition? I want either like a fun story or an embarrassing.
So these are like more, well, one is like a pet peeve and one's a story that I don't think I told Sydney I was going to tell, but I think it's funny. Now.
Do it.
So pet peeve is when we're playing with couples or there's girls on the court and we're mid-game and Sydney's complimenting outfits. She's asking where people got them. And like, she doesn't know the score. So she's not fully locked in, like I always tell her. So that's my pet peeve. Anytime she doesn't see, I love your leggings. Wait, where'd you get that top? And I'm like, can we just play? That's why we sit, like you said, 10, 15 minutes in between games to talk about this.
I can so relate though. It just sometimes it happens. I thought happens on the court.
Just that.
All of a sudden,
you like that.
Yeah, you see the skirt like flip a certain way. You're like, oh, I like that skirt.
I always tell her, wait till we get to 11. And then the other story, which Sydney didn't find funny at the time, but one thing that sometimes we struggle with is like communication on the court, like who's going to call the ball in the middle. So there was this like one game, I don't know if you know this. We were on the first court and like anyone who is listening, like first court, like there's 20 plus people next to you. Like you don't want to swing and miss. You don't want to like kill the ball out of bounds. Like you want to be very sound. There's a lot of people that are watching.
Everyone's watching because that's where they're waiting with their paddles.
Exactly. So Sydney was on her forehand on the left side facing the opponent. I was on my other side, backhand side. And we had a ball come in between us. And I always tell Sydney, like forehand, like you can cross over, like whatever you call is yours. And if you don't call it, I'm going to just go for it. So Sydney doesn't really like to say got it. She'd rather me to say either you got it or got it. So there was one ball in the middle, like on the line, and like it was definitely hers. And then no one said a word. And then the last second, I just tried to like hit the ball and I ended up hitting the ball. It was cold. I hit her right in the ear and everyone saw it. And there was like a big like, oh, on the side. Yeah, like, like he's in the doghouse, like that kind of,
Yeah.
Looking back on it, funny, but Sydney was not too happy. And I was like,
pissed.
I was like, we gotta talk.
It was so
Did
bad.
you stop the game or did you keep playing?
We kept going, but one of the first things I said to Sean is like, you better not ever hit me. Like, if you ever hit me, it's not gonna be a good day for you. And that was one of those ones where everybody else witnessed it. And it was like a full audible audience, like reaction. And so I knew it must have looked bad and it was making me feel embarrassed and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Oh my gosh, something similar just happened to me a couple weeks ago. People I had never played with before, too, was worse. And I was the one that hit the person. Same thing, Sean. First court. It was only a few points in. I think I served the ball. It came back over. And my partner, and again, I'd never played with her. I'd never even seen her before. Swung and missed. But I was behind her. Because sometimes I like try to like cover. So I go to hit the ball. I'm like all excited that I covered and hit the ball. But she was in front of me. So I hit the back of her head. And the same thing, the whole beside, they're like, but beside myself. I can't, I go running over to her. I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm so sorry. And she's like rubbing the back of her head. And she's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. It's pickleball. But I like something about that. Like I must have apologized. She insisted we keep playing. But then all of a sudden, then it was time to rotate. So we moved over to the middle. The audience were disengaged after that point. But every couple of points, I'm like, are you sure you're okay? Because it felt so bad. But then I was apologizing off the court as we walked off. But
I know. It's like an awkward feeling. But I feel like, too, it's like, thank God it's not something like
A baseball?
a baseball or,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
tennis ball would hurt worse.
Yeah,
or
thank
like,
God it wasn't really hard. Oh my
Yeah.
God, in league the other night, in our women's league, we start playing one of our games in our match. And this woman, she's just a banger. Like not so much a soft player.
Yeah.
So first point, fine. Second point, I ducked. It like literally skimmed by the side of my head. Like it was flying, that ball. Like it would have been bad. And I probably should have had my paddle more up, right? Because it's instinctive to duck.
Protect
Of
the
course, it goes
face.
flying out of bounds. And then the next point, people, again, like that was like by my chest. But there I had like my paddle ready. Because again, instinct. Your instinct sometimes just takes over and like not even hitting. Like I'm going to get hit. So I'm just going to move out of the way. And then I look at her and I say, is target on my body right here? Because like
Yeah,
you should
like,
avoid it.
Looking for that. Getting like, what's up with that?
Because I literally was scared because both times I was at the kitchen line too. And because I was closer.
That was my fear when I first started playing, was being at the kitchen. I didn't like to come up because I have bad vision and I have to play with glasses. And I just feel like it took so long to get adjusted to the idea of being that close to when people speed up and when they dink and like having to be there if you get hit. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I completely understand and relate to that.
Yeah.
Like,
Sean, I'm curious from a male perspective, because a lot of times there's a lot of really hard hitting in your game. Is there ever a point where you're scared?
I'm a bit scared. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks when people like hit it hard at you, but like we have a couple friends that hit it really hard, and like that's the whole thing. Like you play with them, and like you just have to have your paddle. So it doesn't necessarily scare me, but like there are some dudes that hit the ball. Like if it's hitting me, it's getting a tattoo.
For sure. Like to the emergency room. I mean, there's some speed on those balls. So do you feel like you have your paddle up here and you're blocking like right at your face sometimes?
I think it's like always just like ready stance that they like teach you if you take lessons. Because again, like,
here.
if you like have a really hard swing and then you run in the kitchen, sometimes the paddle's low on like either side. Like mine's always close in a ready stance. So like first like protect yourself, and then also like it's just gonna be like a quicker hit.
Yeah, like scared maybe is not the right word, but it's like nervous. You're
Yeah.
just like, what's gonna happen? I've definitely got tattooed by balls before. I mean, you guys know
Yeah.
that.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what's in my arm? Literally, like those little speckles.
Yeah.
For a bruise for a couple of weeks.
I got hit right here, Deirdre.
Lovely.
God, it's terrible. Like so painful.
I think everyone's got like, I've gotten hit like back of the head. I ran for the ball by the net and I just laid down and somebody spiked it and hit me right in the back of the head on the other team.
So wait, you were laying on the court.
Like I had to like, they dropped it and I ran all the way up to get it. So like my momentum already took me to the kitchen, which was fine. It bounced in the kitchen and then like I kind of like slid. So like I popped it up. So instead of like standing there, I like laid on the ground. I stayed down.
I got it.
I did right in the back of my head.
Did they do that on purpose or?
Yeah, I hope not.
Was it somebody you knew? Was it somebody you usually play with?
Yeah, it was like one of my friend's sons. I knew him. He was really nice.
Yeah.
I don't think it was on purpose,
Yeah.
but it was wild.
My dynamic playing with Sean and then playing alone are very different. I will never, ever forget. This is really recently. This guy that is like a friend of a friend that was playing with our friends there. I had never played with him before. We stepped onto that first court and he said, no girl has ever beaten me in pickleball before.
Fighting words.
I said, that's a huge mistake. You just said that out loud. We beat him 11-3. I was like, no one talks to me like that. I'm sorry. Like, nobody talks to me like that. But when I play with Sean, I think there's a level of, which kudos to him, but he's always like, we never intend to set each other up for a bad, where you like hit it high and like it's just quick speed up, that point is over. I feel like Sean and I have an extra level of like protection. Maybe that sounds drastic, but I feel like he's going to take shots, and if we play with friends, they're not going to aggressively hit it to me the way that they might hit it to Sean. Which we're like, that part, I'm like, I don't want people banging it at my face. There was like this one time when we were playing and our phrase became, let's lock in. And one time we were playing and we were just down so bad, and we were standing back at the serve line, and he just looked at me and he was like, all right, like, let's lock in. And that's like, I think the thing we say to each other when we are like, let's get our together, let's actually play because we know what we're doing, and like, let's beat these who's. So I think he's really good at encouraging me and protecting me. At least that's how I feel, whether he knows it or not. And then when I play alone, I hold my own in different capacity.
Good for your narrative on like my paddle throws. I know that bugs you.
Oh, he just has his moments where he's not hitting well and he's not doing good. And before he had his really nice paddle, he used to, when he would lose a point, he would throw his paddle against the fence. And I remember it was when we first started dating, and I would say, Sean, you're not 4 years old. Like, what are you doing? Like, let's get it together. Why are we doing this? So now, if he gets frustrated at all, he'll just lightly, because he doesn't want to hurt his paddle, he'll lightly just toss his paddle on the floor. And so the other day, like, we were playing, he like throws his, and people who don't know us are like, what's he doing? Why is he so upset? And I'm like, he's upset because we're losing. So every time where he does that, I'm like, we're in a public park. Let's just not act like we're 4 years old right now. And he always looks at me like, I know you're right. And I'm like, come on, like, let's lock in, let's get it together, and then we're back to normal and it's fine. But it is my pet peeve for him.
Or smacking the ball into the bottom of the net. Like, the ball is like dead in the kitchen and we lost the point, so I just cranked the ball into the bottom of the net.
He's so mad he lost. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, people are really sick elsewhere, and it's a pickleball point.
Yeah. I've played against people who, if they lose a point they didn't like to lose, like, even if they messed it up themselves, they'll turn around, they'll throw the ball, like, to me.
Yeah.
So you have to hustle to get it, and you tell they're annoyed, but I'm like, what's this? Like,
that's crazy.
That's a lot.
It's just nuts. Has there been any time like there's been tension on the court? Like,
there's been a couple different times where we'll play with people, and Sean really wants to win. He really wants to win that game because he either thinks that we're better than the people we're playing, or he just really wants to prove that we are and capable of beating those people. And I feel like sometimes, which I'll call him out for it because it is a weakness and he knows it, but his mental game is probably not the best comparatively to mine. And I have to just ground him. I'm like, we're in a public park in the middle of the day having fun. Like, just play how you normally play. Like, don't put this added pressure. Like, I'll just tell him, like, we're just playing for fun. Like, we're playing for fun. We're not in a tournament. We're not in a competition. Just enjoy your thing. Because then he starts to get upset. He's missing shots. He normally does it. And I know it's because he's, like, so mentally trying to focus on beating them that he just forgets what he's doing. So that's, like, how I feel like I calm him down.
Does that work for you, Sean?
Sometimes. I mean, there's only so much like outside noise that like help when like you're annoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's a big one. And then playing with people that play very different at like speed it up a lot, and then you try and speed it up, and then you don't play like your game. Like when we play and dink and play the right way again, like that chess mindset, I feel like you can play with most people. But sometimes going back to what you were saying about like people hitting it hard, like we play into their game.
It's so easy to get sucked
So
in.
easy.
Yeah.
So you're like, boom, 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 boom. A couple more questions, and then to wrap up. What's the most memorable or funniest moment you've had together on the courts or as a group, or even with a group of friends?
Yes. So one night we went to the new indoor pickleball place, and we went with another couple that we've met at pickleball. They actually also met and started dating through pickleball, so we hang out with them pretty often. We went to Pinpoint, and it was a Friday night. So it was actually in January, and I was doing dry January. So I was like, I'm not going to have a beverage, but it's Friday night, kind of long work week. So they all had a beverage, and then we started playing.
And they have a bar there.
Yeah, there's a bar there. It's super nice. It's been like a good hangout spot, definitely on the weekends for them for that. And Sean and this other guy that we were playing with, we would start, a game and they would bet, and whoever lost had to buy the other a shot. Not a
Lost the
drink.
game?
Yeah, whoever lost the game had to buy the other person a shot. So because I wasn't drinking, we ended up winning every game but one, I'll be honest. And so Sean had like 4 games back to back where he took straight tequila shots because of these bets. And at first it was like funny, and then they just kept going. And I remember being the only sober one. I was like, oh no, like this is not gonna go well. I've never played with Sean while he's been intoxicated, and we weren't doing anything rowdy or anything bad, but it got to the point where like Sean was completely missing and whiffing balls. Like it was not good. And I was like, Sean, this is bad, because even if we do lose, like you're gonna have to buy him a shot and you guys are gonna do another shot. Like this is not a good, like, don't do this anymore. And it was just a really like different experience that we wouldn't normally have at pickleball, but it was so funny.
I will say my bar tab was very low that night. So
Nice. Yeah. Has there ever been a night you left the courts and you were like, that was so fun?
Yeah.
I really enjoy playing with people that have like different frustration ticks. So like I'm like an engineer of chaos. So if somebody throws their paddle, I really want them to like throw their paddle. We have one friend, Jason, who like his famous thing, every time he misses a point, he hits his leg with the paddle, like his thigh.
So hard.
Like so hard. But like, yeah, you could hear it on like in the whole park. So like when we play against them, because it's a couple, like I always like target him. I know like when he's going to miss it. And then like I always just start cracking up because that's like his tick. Like he just smacks his leg so hard, and it's like, it never hurts him. Like it's the meaty part of his leg, but it turns so red and everyone can hear it on the.
It's really loud, but it makes us laugh because like we know that that's what's.
So I'm like an engineer of chaos sometimes. Like I know what like ticks people, and like I think
so
it's
you're
hilarious.
a provoker.
People like when I throw my paddle. That's all I'm gonna say. So like I can fight back.
What are your hopes for the pickleball community in the next year, in the coming year?
We were actually talking about this, and we both agreed this was a good one. I think we would love to see some more outdoor courts be put down. I don't really know like how things like that get discussed for a city, for county. But like I think that would favor the community really well, but just more options to play, because I think it's very generational for everybody now. And so it's really, more about like where you can expand community.
Yeah. When we first started playing it, racks never got full. Maybe like 3 groups waiting for, and it was great. Like you waited, but it was like the perfect amount of time of waiting, and then you played. But the sport has grown so much that we all know that the courts can get really packed. You can't get your paddle in the rack. There's a lot of community tennis courts that aren't used all the time. It's expensive to build dedicated pickleball courts, but I would love to see county convert some of those tennis courts, some of the community tennis courts, to pickleball courts. And that can't be that much money. I would even like put together a GoFundMe. I bet you a bunch of pickleball players would actually contribute to get another set of courts in Raleigh.
That could be my next advocate step after my marathon.
I would say one thing is like what Sydney and I want to do after her marathon, start playing in tournaments. And from what I've heard, like most of them like self-rate, and like, lack for better words, I feel it's kind of like stupid because like people are going to sandbag, people know how good they are. Even like when me and Sydney want to play a tournament, like have an idea, we've asked friends that are really good, like where we stand, but you don't really know till you play. And like my whole thing is like, I don't want to spend a whole weekend and like we either like beat everyone 11-2 and win first place, because then it's like sandbagged, or like the other end be horrible. So we play like only 2 or 3 games. Like, why did we play in that division? So like you have to like download the app, play at least even like 2 people, get some sort of rating, and then enter the tournament. I've heard, and it's a challenge a lot of people have. So I would assume if for someone like me who plays 2 or 3 times a week, there's plenty of other people that have just no clue how good they are.
I played in pickleball tournaments, and exactly like you're talking about. I think most people will sandbag and they'll be better. And there was a tournament we waited around all weekend because there was a weather delay first. And then we played, and we just had an off day. It was when Elle and I paired up.
and we lost 2 games and you're out, double elimination. And we're like, all of that waiting, you know?
Yeah, like what was it for?
Yeah, and then we've had the opposite also, and then we've also had some good ones. But I don't know. I was saying on another one of these episodes that my tournament days may be over. Like this is a whole weekend. I don't know. A good charity, I'd go.
No, yeah, well, we've never done that too, so I think like we probably have a little bit of naivety there where we haven't experienced how that process works quite yet.
I think you guys will have fun, and I would recommend doing it. The most fun tournaments I've been at is when other friends have gone too, so you're all cheering each other on, and you're making like a day and a weekend out of it.
Yeah.
They're actually fun.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, the point of tournaments is to win, but also like, you know, there's something to be said about if you're going to pay to play and like enjoy it, have fun too. I feel like if you're not having fun, then you're not doing it, right?
Our final question: what does pickleball mean to each of you beyond the sport itself?
I mean, community, friendships, everything we've talked about. Like, it's just such a good spot.
I would say for me, it's like, it never feels like a waste of my time, which might be really like trivial. But I think for me, like if there's anything I'd learned in the last year of my life on a personal level, it's that I feel like I have no time to spend doing things that sometimes I really wish I did have time for. I get to catch up with somebody. Sometimes it's like really stress relieving, or I just get to enjoy the outside, or, you know, honestly, it's been a really big thing too for getting into better habits.
Exactly. It was just last week, and it was a beautiful day this past week. I was on the courts, and I was playing with somebody. He was playing badly, and he kept apologizing to me during the game. And I said, listen, it is a beautiful day. I am out on the pickleball court.
We're at the park. We're at the park. Have fun.
The park. I am not upset at all. Like, not in the least. I am just not.
I love
That's
it.
the way I look at it,
And if you are like negative, then like who would want to play with you again?
Mm-hmm. Thank you both for joining, and I will see you on the
So fun. I love that. I'm so glad that we could. Thank you for asking us to be on it.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time when a new episode drops each Saturday. If you like this episode, be sure to leave us a like, and we'll see you out on the courts.